this evening, so let's get started. Let's call it to order, do a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you all. Let's do roll. What do we got? Dan, Ren, Paloma, George, Justice, Molly. I guess we're all here. Please here. I see Chris online. Is it Drew that's joining us for the attorney? Okay.
It's Drew tonight. Hi, everyone.
Thanks. Okay, we're all here. So the first thing we're going to do is a community segment. And we have two. And the first one is the Spirit of Beacon Day update, and that's Gwenna.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak today on behalf of the Spirit of Beacon Day Committee. And first of all, I want to say thank you for your continued support of the Spirit of Beacon Day and of the committee over all of the years that it's been running. And I wanted to give an update today. It's actually going to be, we have run, the City of Beacon has had the Spirit of Beacon Day for 44 years without any stop. And this year, it's slated to be the 45th year of the event. And it started in 1977 with a small group of community volunteers. And since that time, it's been running purely by volunteers from the community, organizing it, spending months in advance, coordinating all the groups. And traditionally, we have around 130 community groups being involved, parading down Main Street, and also having street tables along Main Street. And the day Main Street is shut down for the day on usually the Sunday, the last Sunday in September. And it's a great day, and the mission is for the community to get to know each other better and to understand each other through conversation, food, and entertainment. So it's a day of bringing the community together. And I'm here today to let you know I've been leading the committee as the chair for the last 4 years. And I have come to a place in my current job position that it's become, I have a new job, that it's very actually taking a lot of time, and it actually involves me and asks me to travel quite a bit. And so I'm actually not going to be here during, I'm asked to be traveling between September the 19th and 30th. But even apart from the fact that I'm not going to be here, the time to organize the committee and to organize the event, I don't really have the time anymore. And so I've reached out to our committee members to see if anyone else from our team wants to take over the leadership. And due to their circumstances, there's nobody from our team that's able to take on the leadership this year. And so I've also reached out to the 130 groups that participate and asked them to spread the word. Because maybe they know of people in their groups or others who may want to step up. And as of yet, we've put the word out over the past 2-3 weeks. We haven't had anybody yet step up to this role. And it's not just a one role. There are many roles to be taken on the committee, but there are very few people now able to even be a part of our committee this year. Some people have relocated during the pandemic, some people have gotten illness, and some people have a new job as well. So due to all these circumstances, we are really low on the ground for manpower. And without new people stepping in, we won't be able to run it this year. So I'm reaching out to you as City Council members to please spread the word to your constituents in your wards. And we have pictures up on the website of photos of, you can go to spiritofbeacon.org to read about the history of it and to see photos over the past years. And hopefully it will inspire some new leaders to step in to run and organize the event. And I can just give a little bit of a brief overview of some of the roles or the needs that we have. I would say is somebody to take charge. We could call it the director of the parade. So we need somebody to coordinate with the usually 80 or so groups, volunteer groups, that walk in our parade. And it involves emailing that group and registering them in advance. And then on the day, work with a team of volunteers to allocate their spaces along 9D. And Jeff, my husband, has been great doing that role over the past few years as well, setting them up on 9D and then helping them walk down Main Street. So there's that part, and then there's also a part of, you could call it, the director of the street festival, where that person would coordinate with the 80 to 100 groups that have a table on Main Street. And those spots need to be allocated in advance on Main Street, and those people need to sign up on our website, and they need to be coordinated with a team of volunteers on the day. We also have other opportunities like coordinating the entertainment on Veterans Place with musicians, and then also we have kids events in the Salvation Army location. And we would love it if there was people who would love to do these roles or parts of these roles. It's a lot of fun, and I am more than happy to pass on all our contacts from our committee, all the lists, and all the information that we as a committee have right now to pass on the legacy. When our committee took over from the previous committee 5 years ago, they kindly passed on all the information to us so that we could not have a hiccup in the tradition. And so my wish is to do the same to some new folks who would like to step in. So that's why I'm here, and if there's anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer at this time.
How should, if people are interested, who should they contact and how?
They should reach out to the email spiritofbeacon@gmail.com, and that goes right through to me and to our committee. And from there, we can answer any questions. I'm also available via phone if anybody wants to contact me directly. So if they email spiritofbeacon@gmail.com, we can go from there, and happy to answer any questions, meet anybody in person if anybody has any concerns or questions.
I'm sorry, can you say a little bit more about the time commitment? I think that might be helpful, especially both the time during a week, but the busiest times between now and when the parade is, or the whole event.
Yeah, thanks. Good question. Generally, the committee starts organizing around the April time frame, and we were meeting about once a month to discuss. But generally, the most busiest times, definitely I would say, is the month leading up to the day, where most groups sometimes they have questions, and they are additionally reaching out to our committee to know any final details. So I would say the last month, which is September, is the busiest time, but then I would say there is some time commitment between April and September. Again, if it's spread between a few people, it can be better managed than maybe if one person was navigating the 130 groups and coordinating all the registrations. But the good thing is we've set up a website so that people can register online and take payments online, which is an additional thing that we did from the previous committee. So that's one thing that we've streamlined. So again, I'll be more than happy to show these processes so that the goal is to make it as easy as possible for somebody to be able to take it on. And if they have new ideas of how to implement technology to make things more streamlined, that's great. Does that hopefully answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say thank you, Gweno, for all of the work that you've been doing, and everybody in the committee. I think this is such an important part of our culture and community here in Beacon, and I appreciate you being proactive here in reaching out for help in as broad a way as possible, and I'm happy to help you find people.
Thank you so much. Great.
All right.
right. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Gweno.
everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your time between the both of you. Okay. Second community segment is a presentation by Weston and Sampson. I think, Anna, you're here, right? On our program that you're going to tell us about.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
And Mayor, while Dan is setting up, the context of this for people that are just tuning in and not familiar with this is last year the City Council put in the budget $50,000 to do a recreation needs assessment. We ended up calling it a community facility and program report, and it was aimed, as Dan Biggs will talk about, who's the project manager. There were certain deliverables we were looking for to help inform what our investments are in parks and community services.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. Well, everyone, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Dan Biggs. I'm regional manager, Weston Sampson. I'm a landscape architect. I've been working with Mark for maybe 7-8 years at this point on multiple projects within the city, so happy to be back. I'm going to have a really quick presentation. I think you have in your packet the presentation as well, so there's a lot more detail I'm not going to necessarily cover tonight in my presentation, but feel free to read on, and I'll be back for sure. You'll see in my presentation. We're planners, landscape architects, scientists, engineers. We have offices throughout the East Coast, but they keep me to New York, so you've got me for this entire project. Just to quickly on the project, as Chris gave us a little highlight on where you all have been to lead to this point for this project, but really we're looking to prepare a program report that's going to assess what your programs and facilities are, and then look as to where are opportunities for growing the recreation department and meet the needs of your residents, citizens, visitors, etc. So this process is going to take full circle through the whole project. We've already started, and I'll show you where our progress has been. But first, I want to go over some of the steps we're going to take, so you'll see me back here, and hopefully it'll be part of our engagement process that I'm going to go over here in a couple minutes. 3 real highlights, objectives for the project you see on the screen. The first is the inventory. Really, this is assessing programs and facilities. Baseline to know everything that's happening within the city, not only what the city provides, but also what your alternative service providers in the city are providing as well. So we have a full picture as to what's available to residents of Beacon. Next, we're doing a needs assessment. So after inventory, we're then going to find out, what do people want? What do you need in the city? Are all the needs met, or are there new needs that have come up in light of COVID that have not been met or currently growing? So we'll do assessment on that aspect. And then we will prepare a plan, a report, as in this case, that'll summarize everything that we've learned, heard, and received through the whole process. So I'm not going to go through each one of these tasks you'll see on the screen, but feel free to read on. But really, we kicked off the project in April, and we're working through the process of existing conditions analyses so far. We've assessed all of your physical park spaces and facilities, and that's really to get us on the ground running to see what you have in your city to date. The next step we'll go through the process is really our needs assessment. This is really looking at what will you need, and this really dovetails really hand in hand with our public engagement process, which is really important for this whole project. We come into communities with a lot of history of similar projects, but really it's us listening to the residents, to you all, to various stakeholders as to what is the wants, what are the needs. We then marry those together between what are trends happening within locally or nationally. So remember back several years ago, pickleball was really hot. It still is pretty hot now, but that was a growing trend that we would have projected a couple years ago in our plans. So now we're seeing new needs, new interests in the communities. So we bring those together within our public engagement process to inform, as well as to learn and hear from the residents as to what the wants are of your community. Public engagement, I'm going to go through a very detailed public engagement process because we believe in really hearing not once, not twice, but sometimes 3 times about the topics of interest, so that the loudest voices aren't always the only ones that are heard. We're hearing from multiple stakeholders at different avenues, different approaches, because people are comfortable in different venues to giving their input of their wants and needs within a project. If I will summarize it all in a draft final report, you'll see me well before the end of this process. I'll step you through this through many council meetings, but really show you as to where we've been so that when you come to final report for your review, you'll have heard the whole story as to how we got to the solutions. It's not coming from me, it's coming from the members, residents of your community as to what their wants and needs are. And we're going to help you through that process. So I went through a kickoff meeting. I'm going to skip this slide, but we've looked at all of your park facilities within the city. And I actually have here that we've give you a summary of every park that we've looked at within the city's context. This is one example where we share as to what facilities, physical facilities are within your community. If it's a city-owned property or park facility, we actually give a rating. So not only do you have a basketball court, we want to tell you that it's in great condition or it's in poor condition. That is really important for us to know that you could have a need for more basketball courts, but simply residents may feel that what you have is not sufficient from a quality standpoint. So we'll tease out of this process as to, do you really need new basketball courts? Do you need more? Do you need better quality? So that assessment is really what we're doing in this progress of all of your facilities as we move through all these park facilities. See here, South Park Avenue, give a rating, a condition rating of your facilities from good, fair, and poor. And then we also highlight some of the programs that are offered at many of your park facilities. Poe Hill Park, for example, you have several programs offered here with a little free library. You have the council member's office hour location, community gatherings. So we'd like to give you an idea as to what's happening here, and not only what does city staff provide, but what do other providers use your park facilities for, or your other building facilities within your the city's context. Pete and Toshi, Seeger Riverfront Park, and knowing this park very well, there was a plan already in place to make improvements here, so we bring that into the fold as to what the conditions are now, and if you did improvements, what would they look like in the future. Memorial Park, another example, various facilities. You can see here, athletic facilities. We look through all the conditions of the facilities, how are people using them, what camps are offered here. For example, grocery distribution happening within this park is really important, and maybe alternative type of programming within this park. So we'll bring that into full as to public engagement as to, is this the right location? Are people feeling comfortable of coming here? Or are there places needed for grocery distribution? So that'll be part of our public engagement process that we'll bring into the mix. Keep on going through multiple other parks, Green Street Park, Settlement Camp, knowing that you have many programs within your pool facilities. Your trails, knowing that Fishkill Creek Greenway trail project was done many years ago, just knowing how the conditions are now, where could you improve it to improve active recreation within the city. And finally, other facilities within the city that are brought to our attention that may not be necessarily recreation facilities, but possibly venues for other programming, other recreation needs within the city's context, from Memorial Building, the former DPW facility, Camp Beacon, and the Beacon Housing Authority facilities. So this other facility we're looking at, and I could go on about all that we're looking at, all the school facilities we're looking at from a facility opportunity standpoint and what programs are offered at those locations, as well as you see the list here. You have a lot of places in the city as to where programs are offered, faith-based and additional facilities, just on from art programs to art exhibits. The list goes on from down by the water with the sloop. So the next step, I'm going very fast here because of a lot of content. We're doing demographic analysis of your current community, looking at population here on this screen, looking at age, seeing how age is going to impact user groups, not only what current users are within your community, but what the projection is going to be. So if you're aging or seeing new users coming into the city, influences us not only from how are people using it, but possibly what programs, what opportunities may be needed in the future as generations are changing within your neighborhoods, within your city context. Diversity, this is everywhere. We don't want to just know that we're serving one part of our community, but also from a diversity standpoint, how we meet those needs. Various cultures have various needs and wants. We'll make sure that the city's providing the proper programming facilities that are attracting and desired by residents of different diversities. We also look at people with disabilities and also health statistics, knowing that programming and facilities really can be an avenue for healthy living, good, safe living conditions, and also opportunities for users that may not have the same abilities as some of us. So looking at how those possible user groups influence programs and facilities is really the key to all this thread of users within the city of Beacon. So public outreach, this is where it gets really exciting for us. Really the high level, five points that our strategy is looking to. The first is to inform. We hear a lot of times in cities and communities that residents don't know what opportunities are available. We can say it all the time. We have websites, we have flyers, we can simply be walking on the street. People there's so much out there to offer that most don't know. So part of the process is to inform them of what's here. We then like to have a conversation as we consult with them. We want to know what are they like, what they dislike, what are they looking for. So we're looking to have that conversation. We don't want to just be telling them everything like I'm presenting to you tonight. I want to have them engaged and have an evolving process. Collaborate with them and then empower them so they are all of our spokespersons to go out to the community to know they want things, they want different programs, and we can make that happen for them, but they can also be empowered to being part of the process. So let's go through quickly. Our process in early June would start off, and this is going to be a multi-month process, starting with a series of one-day workshops with different sports organizations, school groups, and community organizations. We're going to have what we call a SHREP. Basically, it's a one sit-around table, 10, 12 people at a time, really just hear conversations. We're just learning users and what they were interested in and what they see within the city. Second is we're tailoring the information, and then we tailor an online survey. We're going to create an online survey so that users can respond either digitally or in paper format, translate into Spanish for those users that have that need as well. And that survey really is going to give us input, real-time input through the process for users' wants and needs and desires to some questions that will have them. About 15 to 20 question survey with some demographic data backup. So that'll be from July through September. And we're going to be using a number of park ambassadors, working with the Recreation Department, to not only have this online on the city's website, but also to be at active events within the city, so that there's many times that users within the community can have access to this, either from a tablet held by an ambassador, or simply on their own to go to a website to log in to give input. So as we move through the process, we'll conclude around actually the Spirit of Beacon Day. End of late September was our thought of having public meetings. That's a great kind of timeline for when we can have input. We'll then be getting more input at another public meeting. And then that will then follow by a meeting in October where we will share everyone. We're not just taking everything, we're going to share back as what we've heard. So half of the process is not only taking in, but reiterating back to people as to what did we hear. So, and we ask the question, is there anything we missed? Anything that we have heard that you didn't hear back? So make sure that people understand that it's a process we're going through, but they want them to trust the process, because it's not just us saying, this is what you shall have, this is what you need. It's them, this is coming from the community to us into the process. Then in November, we'll have a draft report of our assessment and our recommendations, and we'll come back to council and conclude by the end of December for a final report of the needs, wants, and how we can meet the needs of the community of Beacon. So that's really quick. Hopefully it's not any more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but our schedule is now through December. I'll certainly be back. I hope that you all can look at your packets. There's way more materials in your packets than I've even just covered in this, but take a look and feel free to ask any questions as we start this process.
And Dan, if the members of the council or the public, as they view those documents that are online right now, how do you want to receive any feedback that they might have? Like, hey, we saw you covered this, there's a couple other things we'd like to add.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you can email me directly or simply go through Mark Price, the Recreation Department. I'm happy to take comments that way. Whatever, if you have a quick phone call, we can make a connection and I can talk over the phone, or if you have a list of an email of ideas or thoughts moving forward, that certainly works for me.
So, and we'll put a tab on the website inviting any response. We'll put those documents up, but we wanted you to see them before we put them up.
Questions or input for comments from council?
Sorry, what's your email address?
Sure, it's Biggs, BIGGSD, at WSEINC.com.
WS.
EINC.com. And I can certainly email my email to everyone to have it.
Thank you.
Yep.
We'll get it around too when we have the link, which I'll send to you so you can get it out to your networks.
Great.
My one sort of overarching question, and I'm perfectly fine with the answer being no, is that we've talked about there being sort of two needs that we're interested in. One is our recreation needs, and one is maybe more broadly community resource needs that may not be directly related to recreation. And I know my understanding of the scope of this project is that it's a recreation study. But if you do get feedback about other resources that our community is missing, I'm very interested in hearing that, and I'm wondering if there's a way to capture that in your process.
Sure. So we are going to be including program needs as a whole as community service programming as a part of this survey and public input. So that will be definitely part of it. That what comes out of that, the needs and wants and how to meet those needs, that will be part of the recommendations as well. So you're in line with what we are already planning to do.
Okay, great.
And as we draft the assessment, we'll specifically have a question about a community center and what that looks like. Is it centralized? Is it dispersed? What's in it? You know, and that'll help that discussion about programming too. Like, well, I need a space for X, and then.
Yeah.
So we've kept that on, knowing that that was one of the primary drivers of the study.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Related to that, another question for you, Dan, or for you, Chris. Will we as the council have an opportunity to look at that survey before it's finalized and goes out to the community, just to make sure that things like what Paloma were mentioned are captured in it and people feel encouraged not to just talk about recreation stuff?
Yeah, our plan was to draft it after this meeting, take any questions tonight, and then we're going to produce a draft within the next week or so. And then I believe, as Chris directs me, to share that with you as a draft survey, and that council will have a chance to give comments and feedback on that survey directly.
Great.
So the deliverables in the study, the first two that are coming to you today are a draft program inventory and a draft facility inventory. The next deliverable is a draft outreach plan, and then that's where we really need your feedback on, you know, this event really isn't worth the time. Did you think about going to this spot? Or, you know, senior citizens aren't really represented in this plan. So you can help us figure out where the gaps are, and then we'll finalize that as a final plan and have Dan move forward on the outreach.
With the inventory, that I really appreciate how thorough it is. I had some questions about knowing a little more. There are times when you talked about some spaces are for residents only, or, you know, the school is the priority, and others didn't, and I wonder if it's possible to include that with all of them. I also had questions about, or at least the ones where also questions about capacity. When we think about the idea of a physical community center, that we might already have spaces, and this is both about literally how many people could fit inside the building, but also, is it already, is it designed for a larger gathering? Is it designed for rooms? Obviously, we might decide to put budget to shift that, but knowing what already exists might also help us to then think about what ultimately the solution is and what we might want to spend taxpayers' money on, but what we might not need to.
Yeah, and I think some of the facilities that we may not have had much detail on, we need to get into, I think, to assess even more than what you've seen. And some are repurposing places. So knowing what opportunities are there for a large room, right, is ambiguous of an answer to say. How could that be programmed appropriately to meet the needs would be the next step. So yes, in that process we can enhance those a little bit more, but also as we hear the needs within the community, that will educate us as to where can those needs be met within the current facilities or new facilities if necessary, from a size, capacity, from enough bathrooms, concessionary area, so the list can go on per the demands, I think, from physical needs and staffing needs. So there's many layers to the eventual recommendations.
And the access issue is a good one to bring up because, for instance, like we might have a pool, but most residents wouldn't have access to that. That's really for currently, at least for students. And then we'd look at opportunities. Can we expand access to that, or is it fully subscribed already?
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing up that the things that aren't run by the city but are run by nonprofits, and they might be willing to work with us to do stuff, or actually they might already be oversubscribed or fully subscribed with their current offerings. And so I think knowing again that it might not be the most prudent thing for us to then do everything ourselves as a city, but what are ways we can work smartly with the partnerships that are there. And Mark is already doing some of that in the current programs we offer. So I think the more you can provide input on opportunities there, the more that will help guide what decisions we eventually want to make.
Yeah, the partnerships are really key to success, so that Mark's team and another provider aren't duplicating efforts. Maybe one of them is the next level of interest of the topic. So if it's a judo karate class, right, he's not offering the entry level, he's offering intermediate, or vice versa to another venue that's offering services. And likewise, down the list of other needs within the community.
And no, we're not doing judo right now. Unless you've been hiding it. All right, no judo.
I have a question about your scope of work. So I was recently on the task force for a needs assessment for the county, for a housing needs assessment. And it was different. It was a strategic plan. It wasn't survey based solely, and it went on for many more months, I think. I think it may have been about the same length of time. But one of the, I thought, really helpful pieces of their scope, they aggregated a contacts list for those of us who are on the steering committee to share contacts that we felt they should proactively reach out to for conversations. Would that be included in your scope of work if the council and others were to provide you a contacts list?
Sure, yeah. We're collecting that jointly with Mark's team. So whether it's just people that are responding to survey answer questions, or simply a link on the website saying I'm interested in the program report, we're aggregating all those.
Great.
So that for future users, future interested parties within the city, that's the best place to reach out for. Here's the opportunity you asked for. It's provided, so come on and join us.
Fantastic.
But yes. Yep.
Most particularly, I'm thinking of our other committees, and I think that cross-committee collaboration is something that actually last week we heard from our department heads on the capital budget, and it was just so impressive to see how they do collaborate and work together to solve problems. And I have seen, I'll pop into one committee meeting and then another, and they're talking about the same thing, whether it's, electric bikes or getting this trail more utilized. And I expect that Mark is constantly always hearing, the committee's desires cross over too. So I'm glad that you're doing that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I have one wrap-up question, which is if there are folks who would like to volunteer to help this effort, is that something that we're actively soliciting for? And
Yeah.
if so, how?
I reach out to Mark. I think is the best place. He's kind of key of ambassadors. So it'd be great to go to the recreation website, log in, or shoot him an email, give him a phone call.
And we'll prepare a follow-up email for tomorrow that goes out with all of the different things we talked about and where you can direct your constituents if they want to volunteer, if they want to suggest facilities or programs, and then also the web link on it.
So just to, ask one more question about that. Is this kind of a reformation of the Recreation Committee, Mark? Is this what you're kind of looking for at this point? This is the moment. I know a couple months ago you were like, not quite yet, but is now the moment when you're thinking people who might want to be involved could reach out?
Yeah, I mean, in this is tonight's sort of the kickoff of this whole process, and especially the assessment portion. So from here, we want to start finding ambassadors, finding folks that sort of at the next level will help us, get to a point where once the assessment's available, we'll start surveying folks. So yeah, the next the groundwork is being placed for more volunteers or people willing to give a hand with this process. So my hope in all of this, yes, is we may find some interested residents that would help sort of rebuild and revigorate the Recreation Committee.
Great. So you could volunteer just as an ambassador for a survey in your community, or you could decide, actually, this is something I want to engage in.
Long term, I hope we see some participation from residents that, yes, we can then, because I think out of this process, too, we'll understand the best way for that committee to serve and help, in the future. And I think that's the sort of layers I envision, sort of the small group here, and then we'll have a few more community members and, unbeknownst to them, but the local sports organizations and scout groups are, we're going to ask for help in surveying, because if I can divvy this up amongst, 40 different groups, it's not a lot of surveys for one person to collect versus us looking for 1,500 total. We're going to need all the help we can get, and I see sort of a pyramid in that, or a reverse pyramid in that helps us get there. So yes, long and the short is, yes, I hope this helps us sort of further our rec committee and steer it in a direction that's, more useful than it has been.
Great.
And we hope other committees will help, like the Conservation Advisory Committee did an amazing job with the open space survey. If we can get that type of participation, we'll get something really valuable. So, we will reach out to the other committees with the survey when we have it ready and ask them to help us, again, raise interest in it.
Okay, second call.
Thank you.
We good?
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks for coming down, Dan.
Okay, that's our community segment. Next is the opportunity for public comment. You get 3 minutes on any topic you like, and I'm looking out in the audience, and there might be one.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, gentlemen. And let us know who you are and where you live.
Great. Clark Edmond, 2 Wilson Street. God, a lot of good, positive things were just discussed, and I think they have one thing in common. I think the most difficult thing there is for a small city to relate to its school district and work in tandem with the goals of the school district, because we're not coterminous. And that's a major, major problem in this state. And it's illustrated in both examples in terms of the spirit of Beacon Day, as well as discussion of recreation. I'm a proud father, graduate this weekend. I'll tell you something, my kids did a lot of sports. And with that sports came a lot of commitment from a parent. And we grow with our children. And they become important. And they succeed. Organized sports in some parts of this state, in small communities, amass in the hundreds on our athletic fields. And the parents bond and talk to each other, become friends. And there's not a stronger spirit among neighbors. It was a nice communication the gentleman presented on Communication Skills 101. How do we brainstorm? How do we talk to each other? How do we convince each other we're good people and come to conclusions? We have 2 examples of silos that you need to break down to be successful. And they go far beyond the discussions tonight. They go to planning and region and all the things that They fall beside the wayside, no one's accountable, and then we have discord among people. So, a city government in New York State is different than a town government. The city government is empowered in a much greater sense to act in its own interest and to lead its region or its neighborhood. And I implore upon you, as you grow into this role, you're relatively young, and you're idealistic, and you don't necessarily, now you believe everything you hear, but you're a little, maybe even intimidated by your professionals that surround you and know it well. I have to encourage
15 seconds.
I have to encourage you to think about what you can do to eliminate the silos, because a good recreation program requires a school district participation if we want our children to grow in a competitive and steady, stable fashion where the children know they're loved. Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk. I won't ask if there's anyone else in the public audience, but I will ask if there's anyone online who wants to speak. You get 3 minutes on any topic.
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're on a phone, you can press *9. If you're watching on YouTube, you will have to join the Zoom by visiting beaconny.gov. Mayor, we have no hands raised at this time on Zoom.
Okay. Let's do comments around the room. Let me start. Are you okay, Paloma, to go first, and we'll go counterclockwise this time, just to be different?
Yeah, mix it up.
Okay.
So my first update is just to say that my monthly office hours are coming up. As always, second Sunday, which is this coming Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. And this Sunday I will be at Daydream Collaborative at 344 Main Street. And hope to see whomever come and talk to me about whatever. My next thing is an update on our last community quarterly. We wrapped up the ballot session with 77 ballot submissions, which is not too shabby. And we have our top 6 ideas. The first is creating a 24/7 community care team consisting of a de-escalation professional and a health worker, which I'll save that part for later. The second is increasing access to healthy food for residents by increasing transport and cold storage capacity. The third is creating a citywide pedestrian, bicycling, and transit plan. The fourth is a city-supported mental health urgent care center. The fifth is implementing an open streets event, closing parts of Main Street one day a month during the summer. And the sixth is supporting the Beacon LGBTQ+ community through pride celebrations and expressions of affirmation. If you're listening, you'll probably note that some of these things are already happening and underway, which I think is only a great thing. The intention wasn't necessarily to lift up brand new ideas, but just to say that ideas, whether they're old or new, are priorities for our community, and I think that we have accomplished just that. These 6 ideas are going to have a liaison on City Council to help move those ideas forward in whatever way makes sense. And I'm just looking forward to seeing these ideas go forward. In that vein, Ren, actually, I don't know if you're planning to do this too, but I was going to read the community pledge. Okay. For that last idea around the supporting our LGBTQ+ community, we just had the flag raising of the Progress Pride flag a couple of days ago, this Saturday, in celebration of Pride Month. And one of the asks from our participants there, including the city's own Human Rights Commission, is asking folks to sign on to the community pledge that they have put together. It's been in existence for 2 years. And I'm just going to read it. And if you'd like to sign on to it, you can do so at bit.ly/HRC pledge. We believe that communities are made safer for all residents and visitors when every community member, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression, national origin, nationality, preferred language, immigration status, age, disability, education, or socioeconomic status, feels comfortable and safe residing, living, working, and or visiting the City of Beacon. Every community member has the right to live, work, or visit in our community without fear of violence or attack. Every community member should be able to live, work, or visit in conditions of safety, security, and dignity. Every neighborhood and area of the City of Beacon should be a protected space for community members to live, work, and fulfill their potential. As a member of our Beacon community, we uphold the above to be true and pledge to come out as an ally by creating welcoming and affirming spaces for all members of our Beacon community and standing up in response to acts that violate an individual's right to live, work, or visit in our community without fear of violence or attack. Thanks.
Thank you for reading that, Paloma. So I wanted to thank the Beacon Conservation Advisory Committee for its work in collaboration with the Fishkill Watershed Alliance to apply for a DEC training grant for local conservation stewardship planning, and that's run by PACE Land Use Institute and the Hudson River Watershed Alliance. It's quite a number of alliances and collaborations that ultimately improve the life of the fish and all of us. So thank you for doing that. Also along the lines of improving fish, we had an incredible tour, or the lives of fish, of the wastewater treatment plant, where the water that's returned is better than the water that comes in. So that was really educational for all of us. And I'll just say a quick thank you to Councilmember Imar Blair and the Beacon Pollinators Pathways team. I learned so much about native pollinators and how to properly dig up turf. So Dan, I'm sure you have some thank yous to say, but I just wanted to shout out to those who had, land that they dedicated to this initiative. Pastor Eric at the First Presbyterian Church and the congregation there, the Scouts, the Elks, the Sloop Club, and many donors and volunteers. And finally, I wanted to shout out thanks to the Beacon HRC, KK, Kara, and Donna, and everyone who came to raise the flag over the weekend. I have sat with my back to the door in a cafe because my friend didn't feel safe if they couldn't see the door, and no one should feel that way in Beacon. So that wasn't in Beacon, by the way. But I'm so glad we have a welcoming pride flag flying. And my announcement is that the Beacon HRC is also going to be holding our city's first annual Pride in Beacon Day on Saturday, June 18th, from 2 to 6 at the Yard. It's a family-friendly event. It's free, family-friendly. It's a dance party with an epic DJ, and we'll dance and be outside together. And there will be local food and local vendors and random prizes, arts and crafts. That's all from me. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Ren. A couple things from me. Firstly, the Beacon Elks Club is holding a canned food drive for Fairground. For local food security and building up the local food storage. The entire month of June, the Beacon Elks are accepting donations of canned goods, preferably the pop-top cans, but they're accepting donations. You can drop them off at the front door from 2 to 6, or you can just leave them by the front door at any other time, but somebody should be there every day between 2 and 6. And while we're talking about the Elks, we had a really great time yesterday. Ren and I planting a very big pollinator garden in a prominent spot in Beacon at the corner of Walcott and Tioronda, the southeast corner of the Beacon Elks yard, and we planted, I want to say it was about 75 plants on 150 square feet. So yeah, it's a pretty impressive big garden, and it hasn't even filled out yet, so it'll be really beautiful once it's settled in. So I just, as part of that, I just want to thank everybody who was involved in that. That includes Scout Troop 41 for their hard work, and Jen Velez and the Beacon Elks for using their property to promote pollinators, One Nature for their contributions of plants, and my wife Monica, who is the garden master for the Beacon Elks garden. And we also planted another garden on Saturday down by the river by the ferry. And I just want to thank Diana of Diana May Flowers for doing the planting, and the members of the Sloop Club who helped us out. So it's great to see. That's all of our plantings for this year, and maybe we'll do more next year, but they take a few years to establish. The next thing is I have office hours coming up on third Sunday, which this month means that it's Father's Day and Juneteenth, so maybe I should pick another day. It always seems to be falling on holidays. But anyway, I'll be at Trax Coffee House from 11 to 1 outside on the 19th. And then lastly, just looking ahead, and looking at some of the issues that we wanted to tackle on our council calendar and where we are with that, I just wanted to raise that we were going to be having a conversation about the percentage of, we're going to talk about ADUs, but we also wanted to talk about the percentage of units or the percentage of new construction that would be given over to affordable housing. So I'd love to have that discussion soon. And then I think this is a timely one, and in the spirit of what Ren was just talking about, I would like to have a broader discussion about things that the city of Beacon can be doing to protect the creek from development and traffic and just human use, particularly green infrastructure. So hopefully we can get those things on the calendar soon. Thank you.
Did the Elks say if the canned food should go inside their door or just on their porch?
Between 2 and 6, someone will answer the door and bring it in.
Okay.
Or you can just, I think you can step inside and drop it off on the left-hand side. But after 2 and 6, just leave it by the door, and somebody will clean it up.
Okay.
And bring it in.
Thanks.
Am I next? And then Kristen, you'll be next. Okay, great. The only thing I have for today is just an office hours update that, as Dan Biggs shared, that Pole Hill Park is an excellent office hours location. So even though it's technically just outside the borders of Ward 1, I'm going to be using it on Friday, June 17th, between 4 and 6 p.m. And there will also be a rain date probably on Saturday if needed. So if it's raining on Friday and I'm not there, then you can check the website, and that should have a new time on Saturday, assuming it is not raining or raining less on Saturday. And that's it.
After the am I on? Can you guys hear me? Okay, yeah. After the last city council meeting 3 weeks ago, since the mass shooting in Buffalo, I've shared conversations with other Black people in our community who are traumatized to the point where they can't even go grocery shopping. They know, and we've seen, that there are people who are willing to drive over 100 miles to murder people who look just like me on the basis of our skin, and that's terrifying and it's overwhelming. Since that racially charged massacre 3 weeks ago, there have been at least 49 other mass shootings in this country, 50 mass shootings in the span of less than a month, at least 12 of which happened over Memorial Day weekend, at least 4 of which happened yesterday. 19 children were killed at their school in Uvalde, and the President of the United States is tweeting, "What are we gonna do?" I can't control what happens nationwide, and I didn't step into this position to control what other people do. I'm here because last year and the year prior, it seemed like everybody wanted to go back to normal, but when I thought about what back to normal was, this was also a part of it, and I didn't want to go back to that, and I still don't want to be a part of that. I'm here because I can't turn a blind eye to this, and I know that everybody's capable of causing harm, including myself, but I also know that when we have what we need to survive, And when we feel loved and when we understand what love is, we are all in better positions to take care of ourselves and to take care of each other. I believe that Beacon has the resources, the will, and the community power to ensure that everyone here has what they need. About a month or so ago, the council hosted a civic participation event, our community quarterly, which Paloma just talked about. And one of the ideas, as mentioned, was this idea to create a 24/7 community care team consisting of de-escalation professionals and a healthcare worker. And I'm looking forward to being as proactive as possible as a community and to be a beacon for other communities as well in figuring out solutions in keeping people safe and working through solutions that are based in prevention and care. On a similar note, Beacon for Black Lives, a racial justice and social justice organization based in Beacon, which I will mention that Paloma Wake and myself are a part of, will be leading a community discussion on reimagining community safety early next month. And if you follow Beacon for Black Lives on Instagram or on social media, we'll keep you updated on what the details are as they're finalized. On another note, not this Friday, but the Friday prior, council member Imar Blair, Dan, and myself had a table at the Beacon High School Career Fair, and it was a really rewarding experience. I'm sorry you couldn't make it, Molly. And we didn't have pens or goodie bags to give out to students, but we did have was a poster board with the question, what would make Beacon better? And I actually brought the poster board.
It's great.
To share with all of you. It delved into 2 different poster boards. I don't know how well it can be read, but I'll read. I think this is the second one and the first one. And obviously, we can't do all of these, but I think it's really amazing to just hear what the students of our community have to say and what they think would make Beacon better. And not everybody that came to our table had ideas of their own, but some of them put stickers next to ideas that they liked to vote on them themselves. And they were really excited to participate in government in this way. So it was a nice way to participate in the career fair. So I'm just going to read them aloud for you guys. An outside of school art program for students. Main Street needs to be bigger. Oh, thanks. Oh, no. I want to make sure that it's on camera so that people can see. Yeah, thank you. Yes. A new dummy light, Chris. I know you're working on that.
I will address that in my comments, Justice.
A music studio to record, more mental health days and awareness, better walk signals near the school on Verplank, don't litter, make it safer, fix the roads. I know some of these are really vague, so Chris, I hope you get on that. I hope you know exactly what they mean. A new soccer ball or soccer team and volleyball team. Use Madam Brett as a graffiti legal area. All right, we're gonna go to the next one. A student rec center, more walking room and sidewalks, a new softball team, lounge for students with study period or lunch, more food access, more black teachers, more community days, city-funded pride events, more bike paths, more activities, fixing the skate park, and a boxing ring. So again, obviously, we don't have jurisdiction over a lot of these things, and we can't do all of them, but there are some things that we can do and we can look into, and I think it's just really amazing that the students participated in this way and that we had the opportunity to hear from young people in our community about what they think would make Beacon better, and I'm looking forward to tackling some of these and to doing outreach where I can to see other ideas be fulfilled by the means in which they can be, and I will share this list with everyone on council. And to wrap it up, the citywide yard sale is this Saturday. The deadline to sign up on the website is Wednesday to get yourself registered and listed. And the Strawberry Festival is this Sunday. As Ren mentioned, Beacon Pride is Saturday the 18th at the Yard for Hannah Lane from 2 to 6. And on Sunday, June 19th, Beacon for Black Lives is hosting a Juneteenth event. And keep your eyes out for posters and social media for more details. Happy Pride Month, everybody. And I will wrap it up now. Thank you.
I'll be much shorter than you. I just wanted to thank, although Gweno has left, I'd like to thank the entire committee for Spirit of Beacon of Day that they've been working on for the last few years. It takes a great amount of effort, but the result has always been very satisfying and a great tradition in our community. So I hope there are people out there who will step up, because September is coming up quickly, and we hope and I believe that there will be people that will fill some big shoes. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay. I don't have to cover a lot of ground. So this was the third Pride proclamation and Pride flag raising. The one thing I did today, I went down to the waterfront. There was a dedication of a historical marker marking the farewell tour of the Marquis de Lafayette. And it was it was a lot of fun. I got to stomp on the pollinator garden area, because we had to unveil the marker, and it's right in there, and it's very cool, actually.
We'll go get some more plants.
Yeah, well, there weren't many that had popped up yet, but I'm sure that we made it tougher. But I just note that historically the French played an incredibly important part to our American Revolution. The final battle of the war was Yorktown, and Yorktown consisted of an American army, half of which was commanded by General Lafayette, a French army led by Rochambeau, who landed in Rhode Island and marched to Virginia, and then the French fleet, who bottled up Cornwallis in Chesapeake Bay to seal their fate, and who deked the British into both staying in New York or heading to the Caribbean. So it was much more of a French, and actually, interestingly, a German battle, and it's sometimes called the German battle as opposed to the Battle of Yorktown, because there were German troops in all three sides, which was interesting. But anyway, I think the French had an incredibly important role in our liberation. This is also the celebration of D-Day today, and we had a substantial presence at the historical marker by the veterans, and D-Day was us returning the favor to France in terms of their liberation in World War II, which included something like 175,000 troops landing on the beaches or in paratrooping. The toughest part of D-Day happened to be Omaha Beach, which was led by U.S. Armed Forces and the Canadians at Juno Beach. Almost 5,000 died that one single day, of which about half were U.S. soldiers. So I just want to mark both of those today, and both thanking the French for their role in our liberation, and then returning the favor on this D-Day celebration marker. And that's all I got. Chris.
I wanted to let you know that the city is going to be striping on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. We just recently did Main Street, but the rest of the city has crosswalks and lines too. So you'll see our crews, our contractors out all night, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We apologize in advance for a little bit of incidental noise in neighborhoods, but there really is no other time to do it. We are fixing the dummy light, and we hope to unveil a fully restored dummy light. Every part of it is going to be cleaned up so that when we unveil the new light, it will look the same, but it will look better.
But it won't be any smarter.
It won't be any smarter.
Okay.
No.
Good.
We maintain the dummy part of it.
Okay. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yes, I've got that nailed down. And I just wanted to note, we did our first filming of the year on last Thursday. We closed Veterans Place and also allowed the film crews to use some of the parking areas on Henry Street. It was a great success. Thursday night we had more than 200 crew and cast going to various restaurants around Beacon, and a lot of people were interested to see that it was a one day. It was very successful, and we're probably going to be doing that again in the next couple weeks. The other cool thing is that the fees from that are covering the cost of repairing the dummy light, which actually we didn't get insurance for because it's below our deductible. So There is a benefit of us taking these film revenues and putting them towards things like signage and repairs on Main Street, and that's what we've tried to do. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
Chris, will they be notified about the striping, like residents, like, so they're not parking on Main Street the night before?
Well, it's not on Main Street. So Main Street's done.
Oh, no, I mean like East Main Street or areas like that.
I'll talk to Mickey, but that's really the only area where we'd have to worry about it. Because on most of them, we're just doing center lines and crosswalks, so they wouldn't be parked on either of those. In the case of East Main and Howland, we're going to have parking stalls, so we'll get on that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, looks like we've got a good load of resolutions. Let's see if we can get through them. So the first one is setting a public hearing, and that's to allow council meetings to continue via video conferencing. I need a motion and a second.
Motion. Second.
So
we're going to need buzzers tonight.
Justice and Ren. Do you want to tell us more about this, Drew or Chris?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I got this one. So with the state budget, the governor adopted a new provision in the public officers law. It is section 103A, which allows local public bodies to continue to meet virtually under a specific set of circumstances. The first criteria being that the municipality must adopt a local law to allow board members to attend virtually. Second part is that you can only attend virtually under extraordinary circumstances, which are set forth in the video conferencing policy that we've created for the board to discuss. So the local law is the first step in that process. The rule about having the local law and meeting virtually under extraordinary circumstances doesn't come into play until the emergency order that we're under Executive Order 11 expires. It's currently set to expire on June 15th. That may or may not be extended again. There's other requirements that come with 103A that include that a quorum of the public body must continue to meet in a public location, which just means that you're either meeting in City Hall, or if you're meeting at a remote destination, that location is advertised in the public notice. So all those rules are set forth in the policy, and we can talk more about that when it comes time for the public hearing. But setting the public hearing for the local law is the first step.
Okay, and we're setting the public hearing for 2 weeks from today, is that right?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
June 21st.
Yep, okay, just want to make sure.
So Monday, June 20th, we are now closed for Juneteenth because we included that as a holiday with our CSEA bargaining unit, which is about two-thirds, well, it's about half of the city.
Okay.
And the draft policy is set forth in the City Council agenda. So I think it's helpful to take a look at those background documents they have, because it does help clarify what the rules are for this new virtual meeting under 103A. A little different than what we've been doing under the executive orders.
Okay, and we can discuss that further at the public hearing. Any comments or questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, one down. The next one is ratifying the appointment of Zachary Monroe to the fire department. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Dan and Justice. Chris, anything you want to add?
No, just a reminder that the reason we do this is the charter calls for ratification of all volunteer firefighters. So it's kind of a pro forma but necessary thing.
Okay. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Two down. Next one is approving a tax settlement. So this is for a property holder called My Four Daughters Realty Corp. 2021, and it was an assessment grieving that was settled rather than go to court. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, George and Molly. Chris, you want to tell us anything more about that? Or
No,
Drew?
but I'm sure Drew would.
Yep.
So this is just a settlement. under the settlement terms, the city would be liable for a city tax refund in the amount of $1,422, which would make the revised assessment reduced by $120,000. So this will just settle the case so that it's no longer being litigated in Supreme Court.
Okay. Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. The next one is also a tax settlement. So this one concerns Stellar Kids LLC 2021. Can I get a motion and a second to approve, and then Drew can tell us the details?
Motion.
Second.
George and Molly. Drew, the details on this one.
Yeah, great. So under the settlement terms for this settlement, the city would be liable for a city tax refund in the amount of $1,279.80. This would be a revised tax assessment reduction of $108,000. Again, this would settle the case and end the litigation in Supreme Court.
Okay. It's pretty consistent with what we heard in workshop. Any
Question, with settlements like this, does that include the school taxes as well? Do they get reimbursed from the school as well? Or?
Drew, did you hear the question? Does that include the school tax as well?
This is just their property tax. They were challenging what their property was assessed at, and so it's a value, they file a suit in Dutchess County Supreme Court, we evaluate, and that's how we get to these settlement terms.
But that would also influence their tax with the school, I'm assuming, as well. So is part of this refund school funds?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
I believe it's just city funds.
Okay, thanks.
But I can talk to our tax expert, Judson Siebert, and provide a follow-up to the city council to confirm.
It's a good question, though.
All right, any other comments? And all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so the next one is authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement, and this is with Granicus, which is someone who will provide monitoring for short-term rentals. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
Get the buzzers.
I'll do Paloma and Dan. And Chris, you want to tell us anything more that you didn't tell us last week at workshop?
I would just reiterate, if someone's tuning in and hadn't seen this, the council has asked us to try to figure out how to increase enforcement of our local law regarding short-term rentals. One of the primary issues was identifying addresses of those, and this service will help us to identify the 107 properties that are currently listed on different platforms as being short-term rentals. We're also going to be taking on the module for compliance so that somebody in our building department can have prearranged letters that they can send out to these owners that gradually get stronger and stronger. And the goal is twofold. One is to increase the registration of legal short-term rentals, meaning they're the primary residents and they're not rented out more than 100 days a year, and then also to identify ones that are not legal, which are not someone's primary residence. So we're going to try this. The next resolution is related to this. It's a intermunicipal agreement with Dutchess County whereby they grant us back $5,000 of the $6,500 that this costs annually. And the reason they do that is this helps them collect bed tax, hotel tax. We call it bed tax.
Okay, any comments, questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The next one is regarding the same short-term rental monitoring, but this one is authorizing the mayor, Lord knows why I need to do this, to execute an agreement with the County of Dutchess for reimbursement of a portion of that short-term rental monitoring. So I need a motion and a second on that one.
Motion.
Second.
And that was Ren and Paloma. And then Krista, I have that right, it's a portion that gets reimbursed, and apparently if it's an agreement with the county, I have to sign it for some reason.
Yes.
Okay.
their preference is that the top elected sign it.
All right, any comments, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, next one is the next two are setting public hearings. The first one is to set a public hearing for the 2023 to 27 capital program. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Dan and George. And Chris, you want to tell us anything else about it?
So this is a draft 5-year capital program that we presented to you last week. The charter requires us to submit a draft plan to the council by the end of May, which we did, and then to approve it by July 31st. So the next step is for us to set the public hearing, put the necessary notice in the paper with a summation or a summary of the capital plan, and then once we get feedback, we can workshop this again and see if you want to make any changes. One of the projects that you highlighted, a road reconstruction, I am looking into. I don't think I'm going to have time to get that in, but I will vet it and we'll line it up to see what's viable and what can be funded.
Thank you, Chris. This is Spring Valley we're talking about, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm understanding that might have been held up because of extensive sewer work that would have needed to take place under the road that we didn't have money for. But I'm gonna get up to speed on it quickly.
Okay, any other comments? And this is for setting the public hearing for 2 weeks and
June
a
21st.
day
Yep.
from today for the capital program. All in favor?
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Okay, and then the last one is also setting a public hearing. I'm looking for a motion and a second for setting a public hearing on changes in the code on water services.
Motion.
Second.
And that's Justice and Paloma. And Drew and Chris will remind us the details.
Sure, absolutely. So the city is going to be installing new water meters. With that program, it was thought that we really need to beef up Chapter 219, which pertains to water services in the city of Beacon. So what we did was we updated Chapter 219 to include a surcharge for people who do not provide the city access to update the meters or repair the meters, just really anything to do with the meters, because it is essential that those meters are working, that they're up to date, because that's what's going to calculate everybody's water use. So it is very important that the city have access. So we've just gone through Chapter 219 to beef it up where we can, just to make it very clear that maintaining the water meters is critical and that the city has to be allowed to have access to, update them and look at them if there's a problem.
And if I could just add 2 minor things, the funding for the replacement of the meters was approved in a prior capital program and then didn't get implemented because of COVID. The second thing is that we hope to bring a contract to you for the company that's doing this probably at the end of June if we can get it done. So we are looking to implement or at least begin implementation this year, if possible.
And for historical context, I was around when we did a program to install radio transmitters on the inside of the homes for water meters, and apparently we still never had gotten all of them in because some people just won't let you in.
Yeah.
And then, when you see those bills, for $1 bajillion that, when you were paying only $1 a quarter for the last 6 years, that's usually because your meter stopped working and then somebody got it, reading correctly. So this hopefully will help that, and it's a good thing. So, any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Now, we've been building suspense to get to the approval of minutes, the most important motion of the evening. I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the minutes of May 16th.
Motion.
Second.
All right, give it to us, Justice. What did we?
I was waiting for the buzzers and the instant all right, Paloma and Molly. Any questions, additions, subtractions, deletions,
We have one
alterations?
typo.
Yes, you found one?
On the approval of minutes for last meeting, it was seconded by Councilmember Amar Blair, not Amen Bear Blair.
Oh, I like spell check on that one. Well, it was probably
Amen, Blair.
autocorrect, right? So,
Thank you, Paloma. I guess you should be checking that my name is spelled correctly.
subject to that one amendment, all in favor of approving the minutes of May 16th?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So, this is our second opportunity for public comment. Ben, you got anyone online?
There are no hands raised online, Mayor.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Second?
Paloma and George, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all and have a good evening.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Drew.